This video is all about preparation, paperwork, getting the final pieces ready, flying this Cessna 172 from Alaska through Canada down to Wisconsin, and it takes a lot of preparation. So I'm gonna show you the steps it takes to get this done over 3,000 nautical miles in this small airplane in the wintertime. Let's go. All right, welcome back everyone. You've probably been following along as we're preparing for this massive trip, flying from Alaska to Wisconsin. We're gonna get this airplane upgraded with newer avionics, bring it into the 21st century. It's gonna be a really, really cool trip, but we wanna make sure that we do it correctly and we go through all the different procedures and things, not only as pilots, but as citizens of the United States going through Canada. So there's a lot of stuff to figure out there. We're gonna go through a lot of that in this video. I'm gonna show you guys and tell you guys what that's like and what the process of preparing that's like. So we're gonna dive into that now. So in previous episodes, we talked about survival gear. So we have a whole video dedicated to that. Make sure to go check that one out as well after you watch this video. And we also have an entire video using ForeFlight and how we prepared for this flight flying down to Wisconsin, because obviously it's going to take multiple days, looking out very well for the weather, choosing a safe route. Those are all in separate videos, so make sure to go check those out. There's also a playlist for this entire series, and I'll put a link up here that you can click on, and that will take you to that list. Now, I'll say right up front, you guys should subscribe because there's a lot of really cool flying coming, and turn on that notification bell and click all notifications. That's gonna make sure that you guys don't miss a thing as we go along for this flight. So several videos already there for this series, and of course this one is gonna wrap up some of the paperwork stuff and what's required to cross the borders and me learning a little bit about flying in Canada and so on. So I think the biggest thing for me on this trip is obviously just the amount of flying that we're gonna be doing in a short amount of time. And so the flight planning is probably the top #1 thing that weighs heavy on my mind, making sure that we do that correctly. We plan our windows for weather, we plan our fuel stops, we know where we can stay. We kind of laid that out. Again, I talked about that in the flight planning video. And then another thing that weighs heavy on my mind for this flight is just the survival aspect. It's winter time. If we had a problem, where do we put down? This is just a really, really remote area we're gonna be flying through. We end up deciding, just as a little bit of spoiler alert to the flight planning episode, we end up deciding to fly inside in Alaska and Canada, which means that we have a road system that we follow almost the entire time. This gives us pretty good places to land, even in an emergency where we could land on a highway. So that part of it's really helpful. Now, apart from that, we're obviously going to be flying, not only leaving the United States, but we're going to be flying in Canada, which I'm not super familiar with. I've only flown into Canada one other time, so I need to brush up on my knowledge. And then there's this whole other different layer that is, hey, it's COVID time, and we've got to make sure that we adhere to the protocols, to the rules. So I'll briefly talk about what that is like as well. So we're gonna go through each one of those steps now and talk about how we kind of break that apart and make it work, do it legally, and we don't wanna put in all this time and preparation only to have them turn us around. So that's why we wanna put in a lot of preparation to make sure that we can actually make this happen. So let's talk a little bit about the United States side of this first and what it's like to leave the United States and what it's like to come back into the United States. Now, obviously as a native citizen of a country, you have a lot more rights and there's more trust that you kind of know the system and that you are, playing by the rules. So the big thing that the US Customs and Border Patrol are looking for are obviously anti-terrorism things, and they're also looking for drug trafficking, things like that, and anything else that is against the law. So obviously we're not doing anything like that. We're going just to upgrade the airplane. There is this system called EAPIS, EAPIS, that you sign up for online. You tell them who you are as a crew, you tell them where you're going, the manifest of your flight, all those things. You've got to tell the US Customs and Border Patrol when you're leaving the United States, so they know that you're actually leaving the airspace, and when you're coming into the United States. So it does get a little bit more complicated when we get back into the other side of the United States, because they will have to inspect the aircraft, our passports, and just make sure that we are who we say we are, that there's nothing on board the aircraft that's not supposed to be there. So that can take a little bit more time. And so we do fully expect that in Great Falls, where we want to enter back into the United States, that we will be spending a little bit of time there getting inspected and things. Now on the Canadian side, a little bit different. We don't really have to tell them that we're leaving, but we do have to get permission from Canada before we go in. Obviously with COVID, we want to be very careful. They're requiring a test 72 hours before we go. They just would not let us in if we were positive. There's just no way. They're very careful there. They have a system in which to do that. We'll call ahead of time when we're in Tok, Alaska, and just tell them, hey, we're coming in. Here's all our paperwork. Here's our information. Here's our passport numbers. We have negative tests, and we're ready to come in. And hopefully that process goes smoothly and we arrive when we say we're going to arrive. So all those things kind of have to come together, but it should be a fairly smooth process. So lots of paperwork involved there, but that should go fairly well. Obviously, I don't want to just bomb into Canada and have no idea what I'm doing. I had flown into Canada before in about the 2009 timeframe. So I actually linked up with my friend Ryan Van Haren, who is a commercial pilot. He's an air traffic controller. He's very experienced with the area, just knows Canada regulations and aviation front and back. He also runs a great podcast and other services through his company called Cardinal Aviation. We ended up getting together and he and I went through some of the specifics on how to fly in Canada. So now that I have a little bit more information on how to fly through Canada, how to read the airspace, how to communicate, how to deal with flight service, flight plans, and how to read the maps. Everything is just a little bit different. It's very similar, but just a little bit different. I feel more comfortable in going through Canada now, so huge thanks to Ryan for helping me out with that. Hey y'all, a real quick message here. If you're enjoying this video and doing flight training now or in the near future, check out our online ground school. Pass the written test, prepare for flight training, and become a safe aviator. And you get to support this channel at the same time. Join today at angleofattack.com. All right, back to the video. Flying the airplane this long through this sort of terrain, through these areas, is a big deal. And I want to make sure that our airplane is healthy. So we end up doing the 100-hour about 20 hours early to make sure that everything is working on the airplane, especially the engine, everything healthy there. Obviously, huge important thing here. You got to make sure your airplane is good to go. It's what good pilots do. Okay, now we have all of that gear that we had from the survival gear episode. We've got to load that onto the airplane. We've done our weight and balance, made sure everything worked out really well, but we are max weight because we do have so much stuff to take with us, not only our personal stuff, but the survival gear, food that we'll take along, just a lot of different things on the airplane that we'll need. So that kind of packs the airplane pretty full, and we're pretty heavy on this trip. Before we depart, I just think it's really important to take a break and a deep breath, hang out with the family, have some pizza time here in the hangar, and just sending us off in a positive way. Good to see the family one last time too. I've been so busy with getting ready for this trip that we just wanted to get the bunkers together, get the Palmers together, and make sure that we had a nice time together before Daniel and I went off on this big adventure. And then that kind of brings me into some final thoughts that I captured on camera later alone here in the hangar. So I don't even know if I'll end up using this footage, but I'm just about to leave the hangar for the last night before heading down south. And obviously my mind is racing about all the things that I've been trying to prepare and get ready for, and the contingency plans and the weather and the timing and the people and the arrangements and everything. Just want to share some of my thoughts. The first is just kind of, do I really need to be so dramatic about all this? Why can't it just be easy, I guess? But it's really not. Like, this is a big trip, and I think any pilot that is doing their homework and really taking the conditions seriously. Really does have a lot of, I guess, even emotional energy behind a journey like this. So I think about that. I think about my family a lot and what that means, and the risk of a trip like this. It isn't without risk. I'd be naive to think it was. Obviously, many of the things I am doing are motivated not only by self-preservation, but by my family and making sure that I return to them. I really just want to continue my journey in aviation, and I think my journey is always going to surround a flight school and training and being a CFI and doing online courses. I just have this deep desire to really make a difference for a lot of pilots and to really offer something of value with the time that I have to work in this life. That's like pretty deep and philosophical, but that next step that I need to take is IFR training. It's not going to be too crazy. I'm just going and upgrading an airplane and I'm going to bring it back. But for me, it ends up being personal. I'm putting my name, I'm putting my life on the line to get all of this done because that's what I want to accomplish. And with everything out there trying to tell me no and trying to get in my way, I've really tried to persevere and get through this to the point where I can get this done. It's just kind of time to go now. I've prepared as much as I can, and it's time to get out there in the wild and fly and see what comes and make good decisions along the way and just do it methodically until we find the time. There's going to be times when we're going to have to go slower and stay the night places and stay whole days places maybe if we need to. There's going to be times where we can go faster and really cover a lot of ground in a day. But regardless, here we are. We're on the doorstep of this big trip, and we have some really good reasons to go, some really good reasons to carry forward angle of attack and help out, many aviators around the nation. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for it. I'm grateful to be in this position and ready to do this. And hope you guys enjoy this journey, this personal journey. And I just want to share a couple of those thoughts before I go home for my last night. So that's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the flight. With those parting thoughts, it's time to make this journey happen. We've prepared really well, we're ready, and it's time to go. So the next episode, we're going to be starting off on this journey, and we're going to be trying to go as far as we can. First stop is going to be Anchorage, so make sure that you subscribe to see finally us shoving off on this big expedition. It's going to be a great time. Obviously, I hope you already liked the video, but hit the subscribe button and then hit all notifications. But there's going to be just a lot of meaty, awesome, wilderness flying and flying in a foreign country and flight planning and just seeing a bunch of new and cool things. So very different content that I haven't seen a lot on YouTube myself. So I'm really excited to get this out there. So again, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, throttle on.